What if every word you speak isn't just sound, but a direct reflection of the strength or chaos inside your mind? Can the way you speak reveal more about your self-mastery than your actions ever could? Discover how Stoic wisdom transforms your words into tools of healing, clarity, and power, turning speech into your greatest form of self-discipline. We often forget that every word we speak is more than just sound. It's a trace of our thoughts, a window into the mind. In Stoic philosophy, we learn that to live rightly, we must first train the mind. And our words, the things we say every day, are the clearest evidence of the inner quality we are cultivating. Your dears, words are not just tools of expression, they are mirrors of your internal condition. This idea may seem simple, but it contains profound power. Every phrase we speak reflects the quality of our thoughts and the stability of our emotions. When the mind is chaotic, our speech becomes disorganized. When we're angry, our words turn sharp and hurtful. On the other hand, when we are calm, rational, and compassionate, our words become a soothing balm. That's why Stoic philosophy reminds us language isn't just a tool for communication. It's the most honest expression of our inner state. The philosopher, Epictetus, once said, "First say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." Words, thoughts, and actions must be one. That's the Stoic path to living rightly. In this video, we'll explore why do our words reflect our mind? What does Stoic philosophy teach us about how we should speak? And how can we train our speech so that through it we train ourselves? Are you ready? If your answer is yes, leave a comment. I'm ready, and let's begin. 1. Speech and mind reflect inner emotions. When a person speaks, it's not just sound escaping from their vocal cords. It's a shock wave from their mind, carrying emotion, thought, and their internal state. Through the lens of Stoic philosophy, speech is the most honest mirror of one's inner world. It cannot hide a restless soul, nor disguise an anxious spirit. A person may fake a smile, but their voice will betray tension or despair. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus said this, and his words carry special weight in the context of communication. A person who has not mastered themselves cannot master their words, and the natural consequence is that their speech, rather than being a tool for building, becomes an invisible blade unintentionally hurting others or pushing them away. In everyday life, this is easy to notice. A worried person, no matter how hard they try to stay composed, reveals their trembling voice. An angry person, even when they try to talk properly, cannot hide the sarcasm and sharpness in their tone. On the other hand, someone with a steady inner life, even in the face of adversity, can speak calmly, reassuringly, and kindly. And this is where language meets stoicism. To control speech is to control the mind. To train one's speech is to train the self. No one embodied this more clearly than Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled a vast empire, yet also devoted his life to cultivating his soul in the Stoic spirit. He didn't turn to philosophy to embellish his power, but to prevent his heart from being corrupted by it. Amid years of war and political intrigue, Marcus kept his speech a reflection of reason, never letting it turn into a weapon for anger or despair. But he was not perfect. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius shows fatigue, sometimes even disgust toward the pettiness and deceit of others. There are passages where he expresses frustration at the ungrateful, the cowardly, and the selfish. Yet he did not let those feelings spill out as harsh words. Instead, he chose to respond with kindness and patience because he understood that a man's worth is no greater than his ambitions, and he chose calmness as his highest goal. What truly set Marcus Aurelius apart was his ability to self-reflect and reset his mind in order to purify his speech. He didn't let fleeting emotions tarnish his virtue through Stoic practices, meditation, mindfulness, and journaling. He learned to pause a moment before speaking. When he reached a state of inner peace, his words transformed, no longer reactive but reflective, not sharp to wound but gentle enough to invite openness. Once Marcus wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." This wasn't just a thought, it was a principle that showed up in his words. From a place of self-mastery, he generated speech full of patience and kindness. That's what made him not only a ruler, but also a healer. His story shows us something clear. Speech is never disconnected from the mind. It doesn't merely signal intelligence, it reveals discipline. How someone speaks is often the clearest signal of how far they've come in mastering themselves, their impulses, and their internal storms. When words come from a tranquil mind, they can soothe wounds, transform conflict, and build trust. But when they come from a chaotic mind, they become a burden for both speaker and listener. That's why if we want our words to be trusted, appreciated, and heard, our minds must first be calm, clear, and awake. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach us to be coldly silent. It teaches us to say the right thing at the right time with the right spirit. The strength of a Stoic isn't in cold detachment, but in knowing when to speak and when they do. Every word is the product of a well-refined soul. In the end, speech is the mirror of the mind. If you want to change how you speak, start by changing your mind. When your heart holds clarity, calmness, and compassion, your words will naturally carry weight without you needing to force a thing. 2. Stoic philosophy of words and life concepts. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach people to become emotionless. It teaches us to become aware of how we see the world, how we respond to adversity, and just as importantly, how we speak. For the Stoic, speech isn't just a tool for expression. It's an honest reflection of the inner self. What you're thinking, what you believe in, and whether you're truly living by your chosen principles, all of it is revealed in every sentence, every word. To live by Stoic principles is to choose a life of restraint, reason, and self-control. And this shows clearly in the way one communicates with the world. A Stoic doesn't speak much, but when they do, every word comes from reflection. Not to appear smart, not to manipulate others' emotions, but to uphold honesty, humility, and integrity, the 3 core values of this philosophy. Words when spoken in the Stoic spirit are not used to showcase ego, but to express wisdom earned through inner discipline. Just look at the life of Epictetus, a living proof of this truth. Born a slave, in Roman society with no rights, no freedom, not even a healthy body, he had nothing except his mind. But within that mind, Epictetus built a world of freedom. He trained his thoughts and lived by principles with unwavering patience. And every word he spoke was the result of strength forged in silence. He once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That statement isn't just advice. It's a rule for life. It holds a powerful truth. No matter how harsh the external world may be, it cannot touch your inner self unless you let it. Your reaction through action, and especially through words, reveals who you are, whether you're in control or letting the outside world control you. In Stoic thought, language is part of mental discipline. Someone who hasn't mastered their emotions cannot master their speech. They are easily swayed by anger, fear, or illusion. They may say things that hurt others or themselves. But a Stoic's words come only after an inner process: observe, analyze, understand, and only then respond. That's why a true Stoic rarely engages in pointless arguments. They don't chase verbal victories. They choose silence when necessary. And when they speak what is right, not what is easy to hear. So, what can we learn from Epictetus and this way of living? Those words carry weight not because they're loud, but because they come from a mind that's been trained. In today's world where words have become weapons, from social media to intimate relationships, Stoic awareness is needed more than ever. The words you speak today can build someone up or break them down. They can heal or deeply wound. Before you open your mouth, your inner world has already decided who you are in that moment. That's why you should pause before you speak. Ask yourself, does this reflect what I believe? Does it come from reason or emotion? Will it help me live more truthfully? Those questions are how Stoics use words to reflect the mind, not to hide behind, but to live more fully, more consciously, more beautifully with each passing day. And that is the deeper meaning of speech, when it doesn't just communicate but transforms. When every word you speak becomes a step toward becoming your best self. So if speech reflects the mind, then what do our actions reflect? Is there a gap between what we say and what we do? Or does a true Stoic always strive to make the two align? Let's continue to the next part, where we'll explore the essential link between promises and execution, between belief and concrete action. This is where Stoic philosophy steps off the page and into real life. 3. Speech and actions. When Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with ALS, a disease that gradually paralyzes muscles, he was only 21. For most people, this could have marked the end of every ambition, every dream that hadn't yet taken shape. But Hawking chose a different path. He didn't resign himself to fate, nor did he curse the cruelty of life. Instead, he told himself, "I can get through this." From that moment on, not a single day passed without him dedicating himself to science. Not once did he allow illness to extinguish his passion. Those words, simple as they were, became the powerful catalyst for decades of research, the beginning of theories that would forever change humanity's understanding of the universe. Hawking's story isn't just a testament to willpower. It proves a simple truth. Words are the starting point of action. What we say to others or to ourselves creates an invisible current that flows into what we do. In Stoic philosophy, this idea becomes even clearer. A true Stoic never speaks in vain. They believe that words, if not followed by action, become hollow, even counterproductive. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." That's not just a reminder, it's a way of life. The Stoic doesn't use words to paint an ideal image of themselves. For them, words are an inner commitment, a promise to themselves of what must and will be done. It is this consistency between word and deed that builds trustworthiness, a steady character unshaken by the chaos of life. Words, then, are not just a reflection of our inner world. They are commands that trigger behavior. When we say, "I will be patient," we are signaling our mind to face the challenge ahead. When we say, "I won't let anger control me," we're already regulating our emotions before they erupt. Mastery of language is the first step to mastery of self. In Stoicism, this is the highest form of self-control, the foundation of a rational and harmonious life. But the real value of words lies not just in what we say, but in whether we live it. Someone might say they want to live simply yet chase every material comfort. Those words mean nothing. Someone might claim they will control their anger but shout at someone the very next day, not only losing credibility but weakening their own self-discipline. A Stoic refuses to fall into that trap. They understand every word spoken is a brick laid in the structure of character. Place one brick wrong and the whole foundation trembles. That's why living in the Stoic spirit means living with awareness of what we say and what we do. When words become commitments, even the ones we whisper in our own minds, our actions stop being random. We live with direction, with principles, and with clarity about what truly matters. Then words stop being fillers for silence or social niceties. They become expressions of inner strength. In an age where words come too easily and where social media makes people speak more than they live and react faster than they reflect, the Stoic mindset calls us back to what matters. Word and action must be one. No need for long speeches, no need for justifications, just live what you believe. Ask yourself, are you using words to lead your actions or to cover up your own laziness? Are you speaking of what you will do or speaking to soothe your guilt for not doing it? Every time you open your mouth, your mind takes form. So, what do you want others and yourself to see? If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below. Have you ever experienced a life change sparked by a single powerful phrase? What words have you spoken that made you proud because you lived by them? I'd love to hear your story. 4. Controlling emotions through language. In life, nothing slips out of control more easily than emotions, and nothing reveals that loss of control more clearly than our words. We've all at some point said something in a moment of anger that we immediately regretted. But according to Stoic philosophy, the wise are not ruled by emotions. They master them. One of the most powerful tools for doing so is language. Stoics believe that emotions are not the enemy. They are something to be understood and governed, not by suppressing them, but by facing them head-on with reason. And it is precisely in the moment we choose our words that we are choosing between explosion or composure. The philosopher Epictetus captured this truth with concise depth. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. It is how we perceive events, and how we express those perceptions in words that shape our emotional reactions. When the mind is trained to view things with distance and reason, the words we speak reflect that calm. But when the mind is clouded by fear, anger, or pride, our language carries venom, whether we mean it or not. In Stoicism, mindfulness is an essential part of mental discipline. It's not about sitting in meditation to escape life. It's about being fully present in every moment, especially the moment we're about to speak. Wisdom doesn't lie only in what we know, but in how we use words as tools of understanding, not weapons of emotion. A Stoic does not speak to win but to illuminate, not to react but to guide. And that requires total emotional control, something only possible when the mind is deep, steady, and unshaken by the turbulence of the outside world. The clearest examples of this aren't just found in philosophers but in practical leaders. Gandhi, throughout his struggle for India's independence, was insulted, attacked, and even physically assaulted. But never did he respond with angry words. On the contrary, his voice remained gentle, his words simple, and his message powerfully rooted in forgiveness, because he knew a calm word spoken in the midst of rage is the clearest proof of inner strength. And with that strength he moved millions, not with weapons but with words and spirit. Gandhi may not have been a Stoic in the academic sense, but he lived the Stoic essence, mastering himself to avoid being dragged by anger and using language as a tool to build, not destroy. Stoicism also teaches that speech is action, and a person, guided by reason, never acts unconsciously. They recognize when emotions are rising, but they don't hand over control. Much like Jesus Christ when crucified, he did not curse, did not scream in fury. His final words were of forgiveness. "Father, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." That statement wasn't just faith. It was the pinnacle of self-control, the expression of a mind unshaken even by the most excruciating pain. When you combine the spirit of Christ with Stoic philosophy, a profound truth emerges. Words don't just reflect emotions, they shape the soul. Words can be a double-edged sword. They can cut deeper than any arrow, but they can also heal the deepest wounds. The question is, which will we choose? A Stoic does not strive to speak beautifully. They strive to speak rightly. They don't aim to impress others, but to steady themselves. To do that, they must begin with self-observation. What am I feeling? Where is this emotion coming from? Is it worth turning into words? When one builds the habit of asking these questions, speech stops being an impulsive reaction and becomes the product of disciplined reason. Words then are where emotion and intellect meet. If one is missing, speech becomes either cold and detached, or reckless and hurtful. But when both are present, emotion understood, intellect trained, our words become the perfect expression of a soul that is strong, composed, and sincere. That is the Stoic's aim, to speak little, but to ensure every word is trustworthy, worth listening to, because it comes from a mind that has learned to be still in the storm. 5. Psychological growth through speech. Human beings don't just grow through time or experience. They grow through every word they speak, especially to others and even more importantly to themselves. According to Stoic philosophy, words are not merely sounds that echo through the air. They are spiritual material, the imprint of a living mind, a tool that shapes emotions and strengthens the self. What we say every day, even the quietest whispers in our minds, reflects our level of psychological maturity. In the process of self-discipline, a Stoic doesn't wait for the world to change. They focus on adjusting their inner world, and speech is a vital part of that process. When we begin to pay attention to how we talk to ourselves, we start to notice recurring patterns of language, often filled with self-criticism, doubt, or negativity. These words might seem harmless, but when repeated, they can wear down our inner confidence and distort our sense of self. On the other hand, when we learn to speak to ourselves with kindness, honesty, and encouragement, that's when true psychological growth starts to take root. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Speech is a form of reaction, a mental response. When we choose to respond to challenges with words like, "I'm learning from this," or "I can't control the situation, but I can control my thoughts," not only do our actions shift, but our emotions begin to transform in a positive direction. That quote by Epictetus isn't just a life motto. It's a guide for using language as a tool for self-transformation. A clear example of this is journaling, a daily habit of Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius. In Meditations, he didn't write to teach others, he wrote to speak to himself. He recorded what he thought, felt, and failed at, to see himself more truthfully. From those lines he found wisdom, direction, and resilience. Writing is a form of inner dialogue, and in the silence of the page we hear our deepest voice. It's not just writing. The everyday language we use with ourselves can become a source of healing. Phrases like "I am capable of getting through this," or "I didn't fail," "I'm learning" aren't empty motivational slogans. They're deliberate actions to rebuild our inner framework. Stoicism doesn't reject emotions. It teaches us to look them in the eye, to name them with clarity, and from there to choose our responses. When our minds are trained through language, we don't just change how we feel, we reshape who we are becoming. And especially in moments of crisis or confusion, the words we say to ourselves become a lifeline. Instead of saying "I can't get anything right," a Stoic asks, "What's within my control right now?" And from that question they find direction. That's what psychological maturity is. Not avoiding negative emotions, but engaging with them rationally and responsibly. Growth doesn't come from no longer being weak. It comes from learning how to speak to that weakness with integrity and encouragement. Those words guide our actions, and our actions rebuild our belief in ourselves. It's a sustainable growth cycle where language is the seed, emotion is the soil, and character is the tree that grows over time. What do you think about the power of words in transforming yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your words might just be the light someone else needs on their inner journey. 6. Practicing mindful speech and meditation. Ryan Holiday Ade, one of the key figures responsible for bringing Stoic philosophy closer to the modern world, once shared, "I learned to sit still, observe my thoughts, and only speak when my words were truly necessary, helpful, and not driven by impulsive emotions." Through mindfulness and meditation, he turned communication into an art where every word is a conscious choice, not a reflex. This practice didn't just help him build an image of calm and credibility, it inspired millions to master their minds, before trying to change the world around them. For those who follow Stoic philosophy, Words cannot be separated from the quality of one's thoughts. You can't speak with kindness when your mind is filled with irritation and envy, nor can you inspire others when your inner world is in chaos. To speak clearly, the mind must first be clear. The path to that clarity is through mindfulness and meditation. One of the core Stoic techniques is premeditatio malorum, the practice of imagining what could go wrong. But this isn't to invite anxiety. It's to prepare the mind to stay grounded so we don't overreact. When we've trained ourselves to calmly face worst-case scenarios, calmly our words in the real world become more measured, more precise. This is how Stoic thinkers train themselves. Never letting their speech be hijacked by fleeting emotions, but instead allowing it to reflect an inner calm built through discipline. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This quote isn't just about listening to others. It's also a reminder to listen to ourselves. In Stoic practice, silence isn't avoidance. It's a state of stillness where we can observe and realign our inner world. Only when the mind is quiet can our words carry real weight, not empty, not reactive. Practicing mindfulness before speaking is a vital Stoic skill. It means stopping and asking, why do I want to say this? Is it necessary? Does it add value? Or is it just an emotional reaction? This simple pause can help us avoid unnecessary conflict and cultivate a deeper, calmer, more persuasive presence. Just as Ryan Holiday applies it by slowing down a little. Before speaking, we can turn an argument into a dialogue, a hurtful remark into an opportunity for healing. Even just a few minutes of meditation each day helps those following Stoicism reconnect with themselves. It's a quiet space to watch thoughts drift by like clouds in the sky without being swept away by them. As the mind stabilizes, our words do too. When we're no longer ruled by anger, jealousy, or anxiety, what we say becomes constructive, inspiring, and sincere. And the beauty is that you don't need to be a philosopher or a famous writer to do this. All it takes is this. Before a conversation, before sending a message, before replying, pause for a few seconds. Observe, breathe, and ask, is this the best thing I could say right now? Because in the end, words aren't just a means of communication. They're the result of how we live within ourselves. And if we want our words to change someone else's life, they must first change our own. If words reflect the mind, then it's through words that we can build or break the most important relationships in our lives. Now let's move to the final part of this journey where you'll see how Stoic philosophy can help you not just live better with yourself, but connect more deeply with others. Are you music ready? 7. Building positive relationships through speech and communication. When we speak, people don't just hear sounds, they feel who we are inside. Words are the bridge between our mind and the world around us. For someone who follows a Stoic way of life, words aren't merely tools to convey information. They're instruments to show goodwill, respect, and honesty, the most essential foundations for building and maintaining healthy relationships. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This isn't just a reminder to listen more and talk less. It highlights the importance of understanding others before responding. In any relationship, no one wants to be judged, commanded, or spoken over. A Stoic knows that silence is also a form of communication, and when it's time to speak, the words must matter. They must be deliberate, measured, and guided by reason. We earn trust not through fancy words but through sincerity, clarity, and consistency. Anyone who uses words to hide motives, manipulate emotions, or impose beliefs will quickly lose credibility. On the other hand, someone who knows how to speak at the right time in the right way with the right tone gains the power to connect, inspire, and even heal, because they're using language as a reflection of an inner world that is calm and grounded. Words are also vehicles of emotion. A simple phrase like, "I understand you," or "I'm here if you need me," can soothe a wounded heart. A well-timed compliment or a heartfelt apology, small actions, but ones that can shift the entire dynamic of a relationship. From a Stoic point of view, this doesn't mean pleasing others or saying what they want to hear. It means saying what needs to be said in the right way and with kindness. Kindness doesn't weaken us. It proves we have mastered ourselves. History has shown the power of words across generations. One of the clearest examples is Martin Luther King Jr., a man who wielded language as a weapon of peace. He didn't carry a gun or incite violence. He chose words as his path to change society. In his iconic speech, "I Have a Dream," every sentence carried courage, empathy, and belief in human dignity. It was his way of speaking, honest, powerful, and deeply moving, that made millions feel heard, hopeful, and united in the fight for a better world. That shows us this. When our words come from a trained inner self, one that is rational, calm, and principled, they don't just reflect ideas. They drive action, create change, and bring people closer together. In today's world, where social media makes communication faster, but also more fragile than ever, mindful speech is more important than ever. A Stoic must learn to pause before speaking to ask, is this necessary? Is it true? Will it do good? If not, it's better to stay silent. A silence born from reason is worth more than 1,000 impulsive words. To build lasting relationships, we don't need many words, just the right ones. Words chosen through self-control, spoken with sincerity and upheld with steady character. That's the language of those who live Stoicism daily. They don't talk much, but when they do, their words carry weight. And finally, remember this. Words are the mirror of our mind. And when the mind is trained, words become tools to connect, to build, and to heal. Words are more than just a tool for communication. They are the clearest mirror of the human mind. Through every sentence we speak, others can sense our thoughts, emotions, and the deeper values we carry within. In Stoic philosophy, this truth carries even more weight, because every word must be the product of careful thought, shaped by a reason that has been trained over time. We cannot live a grounded, resilient life if our words are careless and unchecked. Choosing words that are fitting, measured, and intentional is how we put Stoic wisdom into practice. When we do that, speech is no longer just a reflex. It becomes a conscious act. An act that cultivates inner peace and builds stronger, more meaningful connections with others. Let your words be proof of a mind that is calm, strong, and full of purpose. If you've ever changed the way you speak and noticed a shift in your life, share your story with us in the comments. Start today. Let every word you speak bring you one step closer to self-mastery and true happiness. If you found this message valuable and inspiring, don't forget to hit like, share the video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel to help spread Stoic values far and wide. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next video. Each one is a companion on your journey to inner strength and steady living in a turbulent world. Thank you for watching.